What in the world just happened? One of the most bizarre, insane, drunk, cockamamie, ridiculous last minutes to a game I've ever seen. Let's take a look at the film and see if we can process what in the world just happened. SGA, first of all, is going to travel, as Mike D'Antoni's going to point out here, as he lands on two and the right foot slides, and then he's going to step anyway, and that's a whole bunch of steps, and the rest didn't call anything. So Dennis Schroeder's going to shot fake and get a really good look from the top, but he's going to leave way short. And Steven Adams is going to have this rebound right here if he had dove on the floor right away, but he doesn't. Waits too long to do it, so now Eric Gordon's got the ball, and now Chris Paul's gonna flop or maybe draw a charge, but the refs aren't gonna do anything. And now Steven Adams is gonna possibly foul Eric Gordon, but not gonna call anything. And Steven Adams is gonna knock the ball out and get on the floor and give it to Chris Paul. And also, I'd like to point out that by that bizarre backcourt Gordon Hayward Boston thing, pretty sure they said that if the ball breaks the plane, it's backcourt. I don't know. That was some ridiculous explanation that I hadn't heard of before, but they did say something about the ball going back there being backcourt. I don't know. Anyway, Oklahoma City got the ball. So now Chris Paul's going to come down, and James Harden's going to take a charge, but the refs aren't going to call it. And then Chris Paul's going to elevate in the mid-range and have a great look, wide open right in his kill spot, and leave it short. Oh my god. Okay, so Covington grabs the ball, and thank God Russ and D'Antoni, everybody by this point is screaming, give us a freaking timeout. So they give him a freaking timeout, and Houston's up one with 42 seconds left, and they're going to give the ball to James Harden. And he's going to dribble and dribble and dribble and dribble, and somehow Lou Dort has been forcing him right all game long. He's going to get beat away to his left hand, but Steven Adams is going to be right there to help. And James Harden's going to throw across his body to the corner, and freaking SGA is right there to steal that pass. But unfortunately, it's a little too hard that he just gets a hand on it and knocks him out of bounds. But James Harden freaking basically threw this ball away. Holy cow. Okay, so now they got 30.6, 11 on the shot clock, up one. Not going to call a timeout. So what are they going to do? They're going to get the ball in, and Russ is going to take it, and he's going to cross over Schroeder and then go to kind of his little long step thing, and then he's going to throw this up with his left hand. Pretty good shot at the rim, but he's going to miss it. Steven Adams is going to grab it. Now Schroeder's got it in transition, and he's going to give it to Chris Paul. Okay, so now we have Dort on the floor, which is not really our ideal offensive lineup. No Gallinari on the floor, but okay, let's let Chris Paul play and make a decision. And Houston's playing man-to-man, but they're playing with heavy help principles. Everybody shell defense, boxes and elbows, how it's supposed to look. Great job. And Chris Paul is getting a little inside-out dribble at Covington and dribble towards the corner and try to make this pretty easy pass to SGA, but it's going to telegraph it so strongly that Russ is going to pretty much stand right there and just keep backing up and pretty much steal the ball. But then it's going to fall right into SGA's hands, who then is going to take it, and despite looking like he's going nowhere. And by the way, mind you, Oklahoma City has 2 timeouts right here. Call a timeout right here, Billy Donovan. Call a timeout. This is not going anywhere good. At least it doesn't look like it. But SGA does manage somehow to spin and get in the paint. And right here, man, James Harden did a great job. I'll say this, because if James Harden leaves too early to go get Dort, he's lobbing the ball to Steven Adams, and the Thunder have the lead. So James Harden stays in there as long as possible and then gets out. He deserves a little less credit than he's getting for this block, because let's be fair, Dort has a really slow release, and he brings it down really low. And to be perfectly honest, if he had shot faked right here and drove baseline, he could have dunked this ball most likely. So, not the best read in the world by him, but shit, you can't really nitpick an undrafted rookie having 30 points or whatever, making 53s in a Game 7. He was unbelievable. Good for him. Awesome defense. But, you know what? James Harden did a great job at least jumping to the side of him, making sure he doesn't get called for a foul here. Great, clean block. And then it's going to be like a jump ball situation right here, and Dort's going to come up with it. But, as we saw, Dort is going to first step out of bounds on the line, as is James. And Dort happened to touch this ball first, ironically, If James had touched this ball first, right here, like if James had slapped that before Dort got his hands on it, it would have been Thunder ball right there, 2.7. So instead, after a long review process and looking at it 10 million times, they put 2.7 on, and it's the Rockets' ball. And they're going to run a play that doesn't really work, but then they end up getting it into James Harden. James Harden, by the way, just do me a favor, kids, and if you aren't familiar, type in Michael Ruffin Raptors on YouTube. Because James Harden tried to get cute here and throw the ball up to see if he could run off 2.7 seconds, and it was inconsequential and fine because they called a foul. But can you imagine, for the love of God, if James Harden had thrown this ball up and SGA or somebody runs and catches the ball with like a second left and throws it full court and has a Michael Ruffin situation and wins the game, James Harden might just have to run away, like to Mexico or something, and never come back. But okay, they called a foul. So the Thunder still had one to give. All right, so 2 seconds on the clock now. Now we're going to run another play that doesn't really work, and then Covington's going to have to get the ball in the inbound. So 1.4 seconds left. They're going to foul him, and he is going to really poorly shoot the first free throw. I don't know how in the world that bounced in, to be perfectly honest with you. But the second one's even uglier, and the Thunder are going to grab the ball and call timeout. But I also want to point out, watch P.J. Tucker and Steven Adams here. What in the world? Steven Adams is going to, let P.J. Tucker go first, and then he's going to swim move, tackle him to the ground, and then the rebound's going to bounce the other side, and Gallinari's going to grab it anyway. But what the heck is this? What? Okay, Gallinari grabbed the ball. 1.1 second to go. All right, so what did we learn here? Not all that much. I don't know. I don't know what exactly was drawn up here, but Billy D clearly didn't like whatever was happening, so he goes to call timeout quickly. But this ref is calling a freaking foul. How? Why? With 1.1 second left, he's literally going to call this. Yes, I know James Harden's holding Chris Paul, but no, you don't call that with 1.1 second left in a game freaking 7. I can't believe he called that. That is one of the most outrageous things I've ever seen in my life. And then he tried to pretend he didn't call it and tried to give him the timeout first and yada, yada, yada. But Chris Paul was so smart and said he had his hand up and he called foul. And then the ref's going to say, I did kind of have my hand up, but I'm going to call it. But then they called timeout. And Chris Paul is saying they called foul. And then the guy's saying they called timeout first. And the refs are giving him a timeout. And Chris Paul is asking them to look at it. You can review it. And you can review it. And he's saying you called timeout first. Chris Paul's saying you can review it. And blah, blah, blah. They're still refusing to even look at it. And Chris Paul's still yelling at them. And they're still refusing to look at it. And Scott Foster says enough, and Chris Paul's all mad, and they're walking away, and he's going to explain that you called timeout first, and Scott Foster's going to tell Billy D that you called timeout first, and we're even going to have a replay where they're going to show you why Billy D called timeout, and they granted the timeout, and so on and so forth. But then again, you see Schroeder and CP all noticing that the ref did have his hand up, and yes, by the letter of the law, James Harden did have his arm around Chris Paul's back. So after the Thunder now are drawing a play up, they're still going to be just talking about it, and 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 talking about it. And Chris Paul's all mad, and now they called a foul. They didn't even look at it. They just decided that somehow now we're going to decide to just call the foul. Mike D'Antoni's like, are you shitting me? What in the world? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This guy's like, Scott Foster's telling them they called a foul before they called the timeout on James Harden. And Mike D'Antoni is going to be livid and be like, what in the world? Why? How did you just do that without even looking at it? That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. What the heck? And James Harden's like telling him, don't even trip about it. It's only a point, so who really cares? It doesn't make a huge difference. They still have to make a shot at the end, but he's still going, that's unbelievable, and whistling at them and being all angry. But they're going to send Gallinari to take the free throw. They could send anybody. Chris Paul's a 91% free throw shooter. Gallinari's like 89. Why'd they pick Gallo? Come on. This guy's... He doesn't have Chris Paul's mental toughness. Make this free throw. But anyway, okay, he's got the free throw, and everybody's still yapping and yelling. And look at Mike D'Antoni, who's going to come marching down the sideline right about here, and he's going to like scream right as Gallo's shooting the ball and flip his hands up. And as soon as Gallo missed, he's because yeah, ball don't lie. He's celebrating. This, what in the heck is going on? And they called that foul, and so on and so forth. And so now we're gonna. Okay, yeah, so they were going to go run a play, and Billy D came on the court again, and SGA's like, okay, there he is, he wants a timeout on the court again, and PJ Tucker's like, isn't that a tech? Why can he keep running on the court? No, they're not going to call a tech, whatever. Okay, so now they get the ball, and Houston's playing topside here, topside here, topside here, and behind Schroeder. Okay, so they are going to... Eric Gordon's going to stay with Chris Paul. After like switching everything for all game and all of eternity, they're finally not going to switch. So Eric Gordon fights through and stays with Chris Paul. And Schroeder looks like he's a decoy, just running to the corner. And Covington's staying with him. And James Harden is going to stay with Gallo. And it looks like Oklahoma City thought they were going to switch stuff, which is why Steven Adams is going ultimately to screen his own man in PJ Tucker. But Houston, incredibly, after switching everything all season long, is not going to switch anything on this play. And James Harden is going to body up Gallinari and force him to go back court or away from the basket, which looked like it was the main look on this play, was to get Gallo on this little pin down from Steven Adams. Most importantly, though, watch Russell Westbrook. He's back to the ball, ready to switch on anybody that comes up. And he makes a great read seeing Gallinari come up and take that away, which is going to force SGA basically to think he has nothing left to throw the ball to, except Steven Adams flashing in the middle, which then Russ is also going to jump all the way back to and get a hand on the ball and knock it away, and the Rockets win. So you followed all that, right? Whew, that was freaking wild. Holy crap. Make sure you thumb up, make sure you subscribe. A whole lot more coming the rest of the playoffs. Thanks for watching. Scout with Bryan.